I think I've told this story before, but I've been here for 5 years now, so I'm running out of anecdotes. It's a good one. It reflects, it connects with the readings of today's Mass. When I was at seminary in Rome, we used to go to the college villa after the exams up in the Alban Hills. It's a very hard life being a seminarian. Whilst there, one of the things I enjoyed doing most was playing volleyball with some of the other students. I was relatively good. On one occasion, I fell into a jokey commentary, making remarks such as, "Oh no, Charlie's missed the ball again." Charlie being a little maladroit on the court. After a while, one of my teammates, who was senior to me in the house, turned to me and said, "Why don't you just shut up and let us enjoy the game?" I was so crushed, I didn't know what to say. The justness of his reproof was indisputable. I'd been mocking my fellows to make myself appear athletic and skillful. The match soon finished, and I quit the court, trailing my shame after me. The need that each of us have to have our unacceptable behaviour called out by others is the theme of today's readings. God impressed upon us through his prophet Ezekiel that we have a responsibility to confront those who are doing wrong. And St. Matthew in the Gospel records Jesus' words enjoining his followers to correct each other when the need arises. He provides a 3-stage process, and when St. Matthew was writing the Gospel several decades later, we can assume that this process was operative within the early Jewish Christian community, as it sought to live up to the divine mandate of being a light in the darkness of the world, while at the same time having to deal with the abiding sinfulness of its members. It's striking that Jesus says that the first moment of correction should happen very simply, in a conversation between two people with nobody else involved. I know from my own experience that when people have admonished me in this way, I've been better able to act on that person's advice than when criticisms have been made of me more publicly. In the latter case, I feel by turn, and I know this through long experience of myself, defensive, angry, depressed, always in that order, and usually only then do I remember to take the matter to prayer. In the former case, I feel simultaneously bruised because my ego is hurting, but also cherished because the other person has taken the time, sought an appropriate moment, and pushed aside any attendant nervousness to alert me to an aspect of my behaviour which is having a negative impact upon other people and which is preventing me from flourishing as God wishes that I should. It's a powerful combo of emotions, and in the midst of experiencing them, I am not immediately grateful for the advice, but I am invariably so subsequently. One of the ladies in the parish has on a couple of occasions shaken her head at me and said, "It's because you're not married." I can't remember exactly what she was referring to, but I do recall the kindliness of the manner in which she spoke, and her attitude, as it were, giving me the space to receive that which she wished to communicate to me, allowing me, when I was ready, to judge myself in the knowledge that she was not judging me. What she was impressing upon me was that within a good marriage, husbands and wives correct each other and help each other to grow in virtue, while a single person can, to a certain extent, fall into laziness or irascibility, and their behaviour go unchallenged. Such abiding faults are thrown into a particular relief within a relationship, and the need for them to be addressed becomes urgent. It's a key part of the vocation to marriage for each spouse to help the other to become better. I realise that this isn't an easy process and it requires openness to change in both parties. But all of us are aware of how some spouses have clearly been formed within their relationships. They are stronger, more virtuous, more caring, sometimes more holy because of their spouses. I remember an older woman saying in a marriage preparation session in which I was collaborating that one of the most important moments in her early marriage was when she turned to her husband, who was doing something unthinkingly which provoked her, not for the first time, and she said, "Please don't do that." The fact is that this side of purgatory, we are always going to be works in progress, and we need each other to be duly supportive and gently challenging, so that we do not, to use a word that Ofsted applies to schools that have become self-satisfied, coast. When St. Paul runs through the commandments in our second reading, they highlight, if we are attentive, those dark areas in our lives which need to be illuminated by the light of Christ. The single all-embracing commandment, love your neighbour as yourself, which he writes sums up all the other commandments, is not something easy. It requires us to extricate ourselves from poisonous patterns of behaviour. To lust after a woman is to have committed adultery with her in our hearts, we remember. To hate another is akin to having killed that person. The other day, a husband was expressing to me his annoyance about somebody, and he appeared minded to elaborate on how this person had injured him. His wife put her hand gently on his arm and said simply, softly, "Let's leave it." And the tension left his brow, and he was himself again. With these thoughts in my mind on Friday evening, I was reading, whilst having my tea, various comments in one of the local social media chat groups, whose members live in one of the areas in our big parish. I've joined these groups with a vague view of finding out what's going on locally and advertising church events in them in the future. The chat that I clicked on was a concerted attack, in parts vicious, on a local shopkeeper who is insisting that people wear masks in her shop. "You can't just talk the talk," I said to myself. I resolved to become a social media warrior. I pushed my fried chicken and roast potatoes to one side for a moment and wrote on my iPad as follows. "Why would you wish to jeopardize other people's health by not wearing a mask in a shop? If you flout the government's regulations refusing to wear a mask and hence endanger other people's lives, why do you take it out on staff in a shop who are simply doing their job, seeking to protect others as well as themselves?" I clicked the button. As I resumed my meal, I thought, I wish I hadn't done that. It seemed to me that throughout South Bradford a quiet descended, which as minute followed minute became increasingly ominous as the eyes of people unknown to me took in what I had written. Then the replies started, and memes expressing annoyance bounced across the screen. But then somebody said, "Paul Grogan agreed," and 2 or 3 people indicated that they had liked what I had written, and then it became clear that a small consensus had emerged that the denigration of this person was wrong and should stop. It was only later, as I went to bed with a certain trip in my step, that I became aware that I had, as it turned out, put into effect stage 2 of Jesus' plan of action. I drew 2 or 3 others alongside me, and together we challenged not a particular person, but a single dark collective voice. And though I say so myself, we triumphed over it.